Hello and welcome to It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast. This is a podcast for business leaders and business owners just like you. We're going to be sharing top tips on how to develop yourself personally and professionally. I'm going to be sharing updated podcasts on a regular basis, so please do make sure you subscribe, and I really hope you enjoy today's podcast. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the InSlat podcast. I'm joined today by Brian Sagaseta. I'm really pleased that whilst having a complicated name, it is easy to pronounce.
Once you know how to say it.
Yeah, once you know how to say it. Do you get many people pronounce
it
it
lot.
wrong?
Sagaseta, yeah, it's very common.
Amazing. Okay, cool. So I'm looking down the barrel of the camera. You don't need to worry about looking in the cameras. We'll just look at each other. But Brian is joining me today. He is the managing director of Chiltern Distribution, and I'm absolutely delighted to have him on the podcast today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to have you join me. I'm really excited to have a good chinwag about the business and see how things are going. So, Brian, for the benefit of people listening, watching, if they're watching, hopefully people will watch it, obviously. That's kind of what we do it for, right? And that's why we're sat. It's really strange, isn't it? Because people will watch this and it just looks normal, but we're really like under the bright lights, aren't we?
It's a little bit daunting, if I'm completely honest. I've walked in here, I thought, crikey, ill prepared.
It's fine, mate. We're just having a chat, so it's all good. And you are an expert on your business, right? So for the benefit of the audience, are you able to just sort of say a bit about who Chiltern Distribution are today? We're recording in June 2025. At this point, what do you do? How does a business make money?
Of course.
What sort of customers do you have? We're
a temperature-controlled transport and distribution company just on the outskirts of Peterborough. Current fleet size is 60 HGVs, 4 26-ton rigids, and 4 Sprinter vans. It's pretty much what it says on the tin. It's a transport and distribution company, tailor-made solutions for bespoke customers of perishable product, temperature-controlled, pharmaceutical, anything that's a bit niche, we kind of do.
Okay, cool. And you're based in Whittlesea. Got a yard in Whittlesea. Can't be missed, can it? Which I'm sure. Tell me about. It's interesting. Let's talk about your popularity with the residents of Whittlesea, because it's quite visible as you come through the village.
It is. It's difficult. As the business has expanded, we used to be tucked up in the corner. We didn't really get seen, literally where the railway line crossing is. So you're tucked up in the corner, out of sight, out of mind. But as the business has grown, we've needed more land to develop and move the fleet element side, the trailer parking onto the main roundabout of the new bypass or the bridge. And it's been difficult in relation when we apply for planning permission for extensions or the land. The Whittlesea residents certainly, a percentage of them don't like the eyesore of the village as you enter Whittlesea. That's probably the politest way to put the comments that I've received.
It's really tricky, isn't it? Because it's just, I thought I'd raise it because it's funny, and people watching this will be other business owners and stuff, right? So they're used to the similar sort of challenges, right? And they're gonna be very empathetic to that stuff, because we run the balance of trying to be good neighbours and that sort of stuff as organisations, and it's tricky. Whittlesea is really interesting because for years and years and years, you've sort of the main drag has been across like the railway line, hasn't it?
Yep.
And that's caused loads of issues with delays for years and years and years. And finally, they've come to build this bypass, which I'm sure everyone's really happy about, because you just get to sort of, I guess it's over, isn't it? It's a bridge over, isn't it?
So if you're heading into Whittlesea, you'll see us on the left-hand side. And it's great that the traffic lights are there, because you stop now, prominent position, seeing this great trailer park on the left-hand side. So I'm sure that's why the residents love the entry into Whittlesea, because that's the first thing they see, and it's like, oh, Chiltern.
But you'd have been right out the way before, wouldn't you? It's a funny thing. That yard was sort of fairly hidden, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because you would have just driven it, it'd have just been to the side and no one would have paid attention. But now, because of the way they've designed so really, I'm just sort of saying it's not really your fault. You've just happened to have that trailer park, right?
Yeah.
Essentially there's a space of land which essentially is like the focal point as you drive into Whittlesea now, and then basically you drive around it as part of the bypass.
That's correct.
It just so happens that's where your trailers are, isn't
and it's an industrial area. There's a residential nowhere near us, but I understand from their point of view it's not always the most aesthetically pleasing thing to see, but we've been there for a long time. That particular site we took on in 2012. but actually moved in 2018. So it's not as if we're new kids on the block. We've just happened to expand, and now we're just visible to the residents.
I'm not being funny. Like your trucks and trailers have won awards for the livery anyway, right? So it's not like you're. Yeah, I probably hadn't ought to name names in the industry of trucks and trailers that don't look very attractive.
Please do. Go on, Pete.
No, I won't make myself very popular. But you didn't you win an award recently for? Or a couple
last
of
year
years
was
ago?
Livery of the Year. So we focus a lot on rebranding Chiltern. Chiltern is been established for over 30 years now. But as time's evolved, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as we have our discussion, it was time to rebrand and just make it a bit more prominent. And last year we managed to win Livery of the Year award, which is good recognition for the changes that we've made in a positive way.
And I think it really because you've gone with like yellow and blue. Yellow so bold, it does really stand out. It pops, doesn't it, when you see them on the road? And
especially for the Leeds fans, they love it.
Oh, I bet the Leeds fans love it, because you're not even a Leeds fan.
No,
are you?
I'm not. No,
but yeah, I bet the Leeds
just
fans
like yellow and blue.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's funny actually. I'd not really thought about that, because it is Leeds colours, white, yellow and blue, isn't it? So yeah, and as a dirty Manchester United supporter, obviously I'm a big fan of the fact that Leeds are being promoted to the Prem.
We have got a red unit as well.
Have you? Oh, okay, that's fine then. That's good. Mate, so obviously at the moment you're the MD of Chiltern, but I guess it's not something you were born into. You're not certainly not a second generation haulier or anything like that, are you? So, which is quite unusual in the industry at this stage, isn't it? Because there's not many people. You've run an interesting route in through various employment and stuff. So, tell me a bit about Brian as he sort of came into, because you've always worked in this industry, I think, haven't you? Is that right?
Well, kind of. I kind of fell into it. It wasn't my career choice. Well, it never is, isn't it? When you finish school, you think you want to do something, end up doing another.
What did you want to do?
It was law. I was always interested in law. Then I went and did A-levels at college, and I didn't like it. So that put me off law. It was too much of a complication, too many, too much. So I diversified. But after college, I got into a company called ARI, which was an Irish company operating at Eurotunnel. And I, again, just started off, that was a part-time job, but worked my way into internal auditing. And then when Eurotunnel had a big fire and they shut the place down, I had to think, okay, what am I going to do?
Okay. So were you based down Folkestone?
Yeah.
Yeah, were you? Right, okay.
Yep, so I was in Folkestone. And that's how I literally, from the fire at Eurotunnel, I saw a job advertised, a company called Dockspeed International, based in Lymm, just outside of Folkestone, privately owned company, again similar to what we've got, but on a slightly bigger scale. Multi-temperature groupish distribution, and I went in as night shift clerk.
Right, okay.
And
how many years ago was that?
Oh crikey! Now you're putting it. 1998 is when I joined the
27
industry.
years ago.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Can you believe it?
Unbelievable, mate. You don't look old enough.
I know. I was 3 when I started.
You've smashed it, mate, to be fair. Okay, cool. And so I guess you've moved around a bit. So tell me a bit about your movement. So started off Folkestone, Eurotunnel, and your sort of travels have taken you around, and you've ended up in Peterborough. So tell us a bit about how that sort of progressed for you.
So Dockspeed was bought out by a company called Norfolk Line. When that happened, I had the opportunity to relocate to Valencia. Mm-hmm. So I moved with Norfolk Line to Valencia. I did just under 2 years in Valencia. From Valencia, when the office got shut down, they relocated me to Norfolk Line at Whittlesea. Not far, it's a stone's throw away from my current facility, believe it or not.
That's going to be the title of the podcast, from Valencia to Whittlesea. Folkestone to Valencia to Whittlesea.
I can't. It was an eye-opener.
Is your Spanish good? Can you speak Spanish?
I'm fluent, so English is my second language.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
So English is my second language.
So explain, because we've not talked about your heritage.
So I was born in Mexico. I've got an English mum and had a Mexican dad. My dad was over here learning English, stayed at my great auntie and uncle's house as a student, met my mum. Obviously, they got together. Mum moved over to Mexico and had myself, my brother. And when they separated, mum came back and me and my brother came back with my mum. Right, okay. And dad stayed over there.
And you were how old when that sort of happened?
8.
So a large part of your childhood was in Mexico.
It was, yeah.
Very different culture.
Very, very, very. And always, it's the stereotypical people say, you don't look Mexican. And if you look at my brother's called Enrique, my cousin's Carlos, Jose, Pepe. Mum decided to call me Brian. So not only have I got a really old-fashioned first name, but we're a funny surname. I said, where's it come from? Mexico? Oh, you don't look Mexican. No, I know.
It's really interesting, to be fair. I'd never even really thought about it, but Brian Sagaseta. So, yeah, you've got a very, is the right term, Hispanic sounding name, I suppose, or Mexican sounding name, Sagaseta, with Brian as a very
I would have
old
preferred
English.
a Spanish first name. It would have given me a bit more credibility, I guess. But yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's from my great granddad, Brian. So that's where my mum chose the name.
Cool. Oh, I love it, mate. Love it. Fair play. Okay, cool. So, so you went to Valencia for a couple of years. So obviously got to use you maintained that Spanish even though you.
I lost it for a period of time. It's always a funny story. I tried to explain to it. So I literally knew very little English when we moved here. It was only going to be a holiday, a short-term stay over here, which just meant we permanently stayed over here.
Life, yeah.
But when we had to go to our primary school, we had to be interviewed because it was a Catholic school that would only take people that had been in the family or anyway, I won't bore the history into it. I had to sit down with the headmaster, and you knew you were going to be asked questions similar to today. And I prepared, and he kept on saying, "How old are you?" And my response for about 4 times was, "I'm fine, thank you." "No, how old are you?" I'm fine, thank you. "But really, how old are you?" "Oh yeah, I'm fine, thank you." So that's to the extent of where my English was at that level. It was cracking.
Amazing. So to be fair, you must feel like, so in our industry, we have a lot of, as an industry, we employ a lot of migrant workers,
Yep.
right, who come to the UK. I suppose you must feel a certain empathy towards those people, particularly when they struggle with English, for example.
Yeah, for sure. It was hard work to begin with. I managed to lose my accent probably when I was in my early teens, so I've got no sense of a twang or I'm fortunate from that side of things, but it was difficult.
And whereabouts in the UK were you living at that point? Were you around
Folkestone.
this way? You were Folkestone,
Yeah,
right?
Folkestone,
Okay,
until I relocated to Valencia then
to Whittlesea.
Yeah, and that's going to be a great book.
That is some book, mate. That is some book, to be fair. So you came to Whittlesea. So we got to there. That was Norfolk Line, which I believe then became
It was
the
so
FDS,
just
is that right?
as the time before Norfolk Line was bought up by DFDS, I started working with Paul Jackson, who was the managing director, founder, and owner of Chiltern Distribution at the time. They just built or just acquired a warehouse on the outskirts of Peterborough. I tried to set up on my own with a Spanish company called TLF, but that's a different story for a different time. It didn't quite work out, so I rented some office space from Paul. But after that period of time, it was apparent that he had a large warehouse and a lot of subcontractors. So discussions were had early on about joining Chiltern and growing the element of the fleet.
Okay, so I'm learning stuff,
Yeah.
right? I'm finding out new stuff here. So I know you say another story for another time, and there's probably a lot behind it, but so that was interesting. So you left Norfolk Line when it became DFDS, or did you work?
No, before. So I left Norfolk Line to start up the Spanish company TLF. So they had an office in Valencia on the outskirts.
Okay.
Somebody that we met when I was over there working. They wanted to expand to the UK market, open up an office here. I gained a few good contracts.
Okay.
But as time went on, politically, somebody that worked for the business was siphoning money away. So it appeared that the office in the UK wasn't making any money, but in fact it was. It was just paying for his lifestyle because he refurbished his house in Spain. Wow, so it just literally, we got rolling. All was great to begin with. Then as time went on, the first month, the pay came in a week late, then it was 2 weeks late, then it was a month, then it was 6 weeks. And by that time, my first wife at the time was pregnant with our daughter, and I had to find a bit of reassurance to get the regular income back in. So I decided to leave.
Wow, okay.
And I did go back to Norfolk Line for a very, very small period of time, but that's how I first met Paul.
Right, okay.
So I went back to a bit of security. Then Paul said, "Well, why don't you come over here?" Then I left Norfolk Line again, and went to,
which was probably unpopular at the time.
Yeah, very, especially as they took me back, and then off I went again.
Oh, bless you. Okay, cool. So so you were with Chiltern. So Paul Jackson was originally the founder of Chiltern.
Yes.
And so how many years ago would that have been that
35
you started
years.
with them?
Oh, so I started with Chiltern Cold Storage Group in 2006.
Right. Okay. Cool. So almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So you've been with the Chiltern brand for 19 years.
On the 1st of June.
On the first. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right. So it was your anniversary. Do you celebrate it?
No, because I forgot about it.
Okay.
It was only somebody reminded me because it
easily
came
done.
up on our calendar on length of service.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because so Flagship have just it's 7 years. I only remember because the accounts are due, right? But 7 years since I founded Flagship. I was working for Volvo at the time, as you know, and it's just surprising how the years just come and go and just roll, don't they? And you just like, my
Definitely.
God, like obviously, you know, the statistics around businesses that start up and then fail and disappear and stuff.
Especially now that it's a challenging. The sector we're in is extremely challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so you worked with Paul Jackson for a number of years, Chiltern Cold Storage Group. So, tell me a bit about how that was. What sort of role were you at that time, and did you go in as sort of a senior team member?
No,
or
went in as a transport supervisor kind of role. At the time, I didn't have my transport manager CPC, so I couldn't be officially called a transport manager. But start off as I believe it was transport supervisor, then worked my way to head of logistics, head of transport, then onto commercials, became a director, and towards the end of Chiltern Cold Storage Group's live shareholdings, and then we decided to do a split in 2018. It all evolved from the business from Chiltern Cold Storage Group, still family owned, great morals, but we grew too big. We had Peterborough, Bourne, Whittlesea, Scotland and Highbridge, and we didn't have the network of the infrastructure to be able to have multiple businesses. We tried to do it as a privately owned business, but it was too big. It got too big. But it was challenging times. Yeah, 2014 was a challenging for all of us in the industry, but we survived.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so for those listening, and a lot of them some of them won't necessarily be in the industry. What was about 2014?
You had your recessions, everything. It became very challenging times. It's we all know that in this industry, it's not a huge profit return. It's not. Yeah. We're not earning 20-30%. You know the majority here are single digits. If you're good, you're in double digits. But it's a tough industry. Yeah. It's a very expensive. If something goes wrong, we had a brief conversation this morning. If you're operating at whatever, say for example, a 20% gross profit margin, for every pound that you make, for every £5 you make, it's a pound as that you get back.
Yeah, it's really tough. And I think that's a really interesting point for people listening who aren't in the industry. So, to give us an idea of the capital expenditure on one of your, so you've got 60 trucks, right? And then how many trailers are there?
We're up to about 70 now.
70 trailers. Okay, cool. So one of your wagons wants it, you know, to put it on the road with a trailer. So you've pretty much you've got slightly more trailers, haven't you, than wagons? But to put that vehicle on the road, what sort of, you know, what's the headline figure, do you reckon?
Between 200,000, 225,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Now.
So.
In today's market, it's
obscene, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's obscene. So the truck's costing you that, and then you'll write that down over what, 5 years?
5 years, yeah. Trailers tend to be over a 7-year period. 5 years we tend to do over 5.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then obviously high maintenance costs as well. Like you've got tyres, fuel. What's fuel look like on a weekly basis?
Oh crikey! So we're using the equivalent of maybe 55,000 litres a week.
55,000 litres a week, and you can do the maths on that. It's more than a quid a litre, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking at 60,000 quid just
on fuel. Yeah. Labour costs on top of that.
So it's
electric. We're running a cold store. It's expensive. But challenging.
So it doesn't. Yeah, it's high. I think it's not for the faint-hearted, is it?
No.
I think is probably the key point. It's high capex, and like you say, if you're based on the average single figure net margins, if you're good, maybe even break into double digits. Yeah,
it was a point of discussion today. So we have it, and it happens all the time, and it's not pointing the fingers. Our guys, the drivers, are out there day in, day out doing a lot of miles. I think the average truck does about 140,000 kilometres a year. We don't double shunt vehicles. We tend to have one truck, one driver, one trailer. For that way, they've got their own space. We take pride in what we do. But 140,000 kilometres a year, so what's that, the equivalent of 90 87,000 miles a year. It's a lot of miles on the road, so incidents will happen, accidents will happen. But it's put it into context. A £200 wing mirror, to me, is a day's worth of revenue to pay for that wing mirror. That's in simple terms. So if someone knocks a wing mirror and it's 200 quid, that's the best part. I need to generate £1,000 to pay for that wing mirror.
Yeah,
and that's the way we trying to put it into the mindset of the drivers, just to take a little bit more time. Just things happen, they will happen. It's just very hard to recuperate. Yeah,
it's just a wonder how anyone what it takes to succeed. So I know we've not really talked yet about the management buyout and bits and pieces, which we'll come on to, but it's interesting we're talking about the nuts and bolts of how the business works. So companies, pharmaceutical, food companies, whatever they may be, will pay you to essentially move their goods, store their goods in your cold storage, for example. What is it when it comes down to the challenges you face around lack of or low profitability? What is it that you do to attract clients, retain clients? What is it that your customers are looking for, and how are you delivering that differently?
We pride ourselves on service. We're service driven. If we look at the amount of deliveries that we do as a business for all clients, not just one in specific, our on time in full targets are over 99%. So we very rarely fail, unless we have our normal British winter, which we're really equipped for here in the UK. But yeah,
and that's external factors
exactly.
out of your
but
control,
we are very much service driven. We take pride in what we do, and that's what Chiltern is about. And it's not, we don't tell you how we want to do it. We ask you what you need to do, and we'll do it for you. Sure. So it is tailor made. We tend to go for the difficult stuff that others predominantly wouldn't touch. Yes, you've got a better, or you used to have a better margin, but it's not. It's what we like to do, the difficult, the niche stuff. It's what we're about.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And okay, so let's just sort of you worked for some time with Paul, the original founder, and then tell me about the conversation. So some people will be watching this and thinking about starting their own business or management buyout and that sort of stuff, and obviously it comes with its set of complexities. So tell me a bit about how
become an influencer. It's a lot easier. No, it started early on. I've always been ambitious. And I've always been very, very driven to be the best at what I do. And conversations were had very early on with Paul, with John, in relation to what the future laid out. There's no secret about it. Chiltern Cold Storage looked to sell to a larger player when it went out to the market. There was 5 interested parties, all big names in the industry. But on the 11th hour, I think Paul decided it wasn't for him, because as a business owner, and especially when you've been doing it for so long, to work for somebody else is challenging, because all of a sudden you've got the risk of losing your brand, what you're about. And I can see it from Paul's eyes now. When we had the conversations very early on and I said, oh, we're looking to sell, I thought, oh, great idea, because from my point of view, I was a minor piece of Chiltern at the time, but it was progression for me. So I thought, okay, we're going to a bigger player. That's great. Better opportunity for me. Sure. But now seeing it from his point of view, being the business owner, it's challenging, because you want to, everything you've built up, everything you've worked on, your brand, your image, what you represent, what you're proud of, could very quickly be taken away and swallowed up. Yeah. We've always been very, it's important to me to make sure that we remain a personal business, still privately owned. I still know the drivers, well, most of them, unless they're new to the business, on a first name basis, and that's how I want to maintain it. Sure. And I think when you get to the level that we were at before, back in the early 2015-16, with multiple depots, it became very difficult. It was impersonable. You'd see people turn up to take a truck out, and it's like, well, does he work for me? Does he not work for me? Yeah. And it's not losing the control factor of staying a family-run business. Yeah,
got you. And that's therein lies. There's loads in there from what you just said. Particularly makes me laugh about becoming an influencer. It's a lot easier. So so there was like a succession plan, I suppose.
There was
as part of the plan of doing that from an exit perspective. Is there anything? I suppose, what learnings have you got? So people listening might be thinking about in the future selling their business, for example. What are the sort of going through that process of taking control of part of the organisation and then Paul exiting? Was there any, like, what's the key learnings for you that would have been really useful for you?
From a business point of view, the knowing the business inside out was second day nature for me. It was something I was used to. The bit that I found the hardest was working for Paul for so long and having a rapport and somebody to bounce off. That's the bit I didn't take into account. So all of a sudden, when you've worked with somebody for that period of time, day in, day out, you know what each other's thinking. You'd speak to each other, myself and Paul, multiple times during the day. You knew what they were going to say. If something happened and it would have annoyed Paul or set him off like a fire, I knew it was going to come. And it worked both ways. So we had a great relationship like that.
Sure.
And they're the bits that you fail to take into account, because when he left the business, all of a sudden it's great. Okay, I'm in charge now, but you've got nobody to bounce off. All of a sudden it's like, Christ, what are we doing here? What's going on? And that's been the hardest part, trying to find a robust, solid number two, or somebody to bounce ideas off. Sometimes it might be stupid ideas, sometimes it's just venting, but that's been the hardest challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine. It is. So I make a lot of noise about it being lonely at the top, and it genuinely is a challenge, isn't it?
It is true. It's the one thing probably I wasn't prepared for.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're making decisions. You've got responsibility not just for yourself and your family, but the amount of people you employ, they've all got family. One bad choice, or you're going to work in a bad mood and something happens and you make the wrong decision or make the wrong comment, and all of a sudden you're playing with a lot of people's lives. Yeah, and that is the yes, you're aware of the responsibility before you get into it. It's just understanding the weight of that.
Yeah, absolutely. When you said that, it just reminded me of Gerald Ratner. Do you remember Gerald Ratner? He was the guy who owned Ratner's Jewellers, and he done an after dinner talk one year, years and years ago. We're talking in the late 80s, early 90s, I think. He's on the speaking scene now, which is why I'm sort of relatively aware of him. And he's written a book about the sort of the catastrophic failure. But I believe Ratner's had they were a PLC, and he articulated during an after dinner speech about the jewellery being worthless or something like that, and it absolutely nailed, like literally overnight, like literally destroyed the whole business, the whole organisation.
You've got to be so so self-aware of what you're saying nowadays.
Yeah.
But also from a people perspective, and I guess the other thing is, you're not only a boss, but I'm not saying you become a counsellor, but all of a sudden everybody else's problems kind of become yours as well. So trying to, especially having an open door policy, that's been, I love it sometimes, but sometimes it's overwhelming.
Yeah, it's it can be a real challenge, and I think it's just interesting that some people, and I think what I observe with you is that you're still a decent person who likes to do the right thing for people. But what ends up happening for a lot of people is they end up becoming a bit hard-nosed with people about stuff, probably as a protection mechanism more than anything else. So I can respect that, but you try and you
see the best in everyone.
And hold true to those values. So okay, so if you were to sort of name, I don't know, a couple of the big challenges that you have currently with the organisation as it is, and the business as it is at the minute, what are they? Are they external factors? Is it the Labour government nailing us on national insurance? Is it fuel costs? Is it cost of vehicles? Or all of the above? Is it people?
Everything. Everything you can think of is thrown at us. From I took over the business at a time that was instability in the situation. I might have sort of like had a bump on the head, but if you think about it, at the time we had COVID had just started, then we've had the Ukraine war, so the driver shortage. It's just been one thing after the other. Prior to that, it seemed like
plain sailing.
Plain sailing. It seemed easier, but it's just been one thing after the other. Current economy is tough. The unknown, the uncertainty, the cost of materials, labour, as you said, fuel, everything combined. And it's just multiples. And as I say, all it takes is one little thing, and it's just a spiral effect. It's challenging, definitely challenging. Staff, I think I found after the COVID, see work-life balance completely differently to what they were. I think people got a taste of being at home, family time, compared to what it was. It was that pause button. All of a sudden, somebody realises there's more to life than work. And I think people have struggled to adjust back to how it was prior to COVID. And there's nothing wrong in that. It's just been very difficult to find people that same work ethics, I guess.
Yeah, it's it is.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, it is a real challenge, isn't it? And I think you're right with when everyone sort of got sent home and realised like, oh my God, right, well, you know, we go to work every day and what for, and you know, all that. It's it's a particular challenge, and I suppose I guess the challenge that you face is there isn't really any work in your organisation that can be done flexibly or work from home.
No, we were fortunate enough to be able to continue to operate. We tried shifting members of staff around, but it didn't work. For the operation that we do, we had to be on site. It didn't work initially. So we're fortunate enough that we were able to continue as normal. But we know without the people, the staff that I've got, the business wouldn't be where it is now. So I'm grateful for that, but it's very difficult trying to find people that fit into that category.
Hi, my name's Pete, and I want to thank you for tuning into today's podcast. I'm a coach, speaker, and author. And if you want to take your personal development that bit further, did you know that I offer a mastermind program as well as one-to-one coaching? If you're interested, please do reach out on peterushmer.com.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And with regards sort of your obviously most businesses exist to solve problems for their customers, right? So what challenges are you facing around on behalf of your customers, if that makes sense? What are they up against, and what is it that you're solving?
Similar, I think we're all in the same situation. We've all got the labour issues, the cost problems, but I guess the uncertainty, depending on what happens with the government changes, with financial costs, the spending. We get busy when people start to buy. If all of a sudden the economy starts shrinking and people are worried about spending, it stops. But things happen all of a sudden. You have a surge in volume and you don't know why. Mm-hmm. Prior to COVID, it was static, so you knew you were going to have your peaks and your troughs, but you could base your business around previous trends. You look at the trends between 2020 to date, there is no trend because nobody knows what's happening. Mm-hmm. Whether whatever goes on around the world affects the economy, whether it's fuel prices, insurance, it's a multiple of things. And I think people are more aware of that now, which has an impact on the day-to-day running.
Yeah, it's that makes total sense. I think I see that certainly in my work experience elsewhere, and then doing what we do now. I see we work with lots of different varying clients who run vehicles and across different industries, and I find it very challenging because we'll speak to one customer and they're very busy, and we speak to another customer and they're very quiet, and then all of a sudden you speak to a customer who's very quiet and they're very busy all of a sudden. I'm like, oh, okay, well, what changed? And they're like, I don't know.
We don't know. It's inconsistency. That's the hardest part, because the cost of the vehicle, the driver, the trailer, your premises remains static. It's your fixed cost. All of a sudden, if volumes drop and you can't, but the problem is once your volumes drop, everybody else in the sector is doing the same thing. And what you're finding, especially nowadays, people are undercutting rates. There's no point being a busy fool. It is challenging, but you've seen the statistics yourselves. What is it? 10 companies every week at the moment in this industry are going bust. It's happening for a reason, because people are trying to maintain doing things at a cheaper rate, and it's been allowed to happen. And there's only one way that will end, and it's happening.
And I think therein lies. It said, I guess, to articulate that, because I believe I understand that challenge, and it's important to articulate it for listeners and viewers. And that is that the challenge you've got, because you've got high standing costs, much higher than many other industries. So, you know, regardless of how busy you are, you've got very high standing costs for your vehicles, your insurance, your drivers. Obviously, if you're not moving, you're not paying fuel necessarily, but you've still got all your energy costs and everything like that for running your warehouse. So what ends up happening is that the temptation is to take the cheap work to then start to at least cover costs, even if it isn't profitable. It's you're trying to cover proportional costs, and that realistically, as the industry, is a real challenge, because you're forced into this price-based spiral downwards, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which I can't think of another industry where it's similar. Maybe people will be shouting at me through the watching this, going, "Oh, you're not thinking about this, not thinking about that." But I've not come across. I don't think there's another industry quite like that, where you've got so much standing costs that you need to try and cover, and then you're expected to maintain a level of financial standing as well. To be able to run your vehicles and things like that. So all of a sudden, it must feel like, and so on the one hand, I get why companies do it when they start to see a fall off in work, because they just see money dripping through their fingers from standing still.
And also maintaining the staff. You don't want to lose good drivers. So you want to make sure that there's nothing worse than not being able to work the kit. Our guys are fortunate; they're salary paid; they're not paid hourly, so they'd probably be quite happy to sit and not do it as what they're doing. But you want to keep things moving. You don't want to lose good people. So making sure that you've got a consistent flow of work is challenging.
The devil makes work for idle hands. I remember when I used to run workshops back in the day, and the challenge you'd got there is that essentially when you sell time for money, you've got this perishable thing, which is the time, essentially. So if I had panel beaters, painters, workshop technicians, whatever they are, if they're stood still and you're selling their time for money, all of the time they're stood still, it's perishable and it's disappearing. So that therein lies a real challenge, I suppose, where you start to look at, right, okay, well, if I drop my rates and bits and pieces, and then it becomes so tricky, doesn't it? Because as rates drop, you then struggle to get them back. And it's almost like a who moves first challenge, but almost like a bit of a standoff, isn't it? So how often, out of interest then, how often do you do, it's an interesting question, I've not asked someone before, how often do you do work that you feel uncomfortable with? And obviously we're not looking at numbers necessarily for the rates, but how often are you doing work that you look at the rate and go, that really hurts to do it at that lower rate? How often are you doing that?
See, it's a good way to pose the question. I think the answer lies between it's not doing that type of work, it's work outside of our normal scope.
Yeah.
So because the majority of what we do is niche, so it does attract a higher revenue stream. When you go down to doing the normal stuff that everybody else can do, that lowers the price. In relation to that, it's probably 2 days a week. So if people are looking for work on a Tuesday and a Thursday, give me a shout. But no, in all honesty, it varies. We're fairly good to not do work for the sake of doing work's sake, because I think that just encourages the bigger players that force those rates down. It gives them the upper hand. And if you don't know it, it sets precedents, sets trends, and everybody's following that trend, and it's very difficult to come out of. So occasionally we've done things commercially which we wouldn't have done in the past because it leads to something bigger. But again, we a couple of times, maybe a week, we'll do 1 or 2 runs that don't make sense, just for the ensuring that we've got continuity. Yeah,
got you. And I think that's, again, an interesting point for people watching and listening who aren't in the industry. The challenge you've got is that a good example I can think of that probably won't impact you. You don't do any work for Amazon, for example.
We did do.
You did do, right? Okay, so Amazon's a challenge, right? And I wasn't aware of that, but my recognition in what we do is Amazon's a bit of a challenge, because what my perception was they onboarded a load of approved hauliers at a certain rate, and then all of a sudden, once they've got a plethora of suppliers who they're happy with, they then go, sorry, we're cutting rates.
Yeah.
And then it's like, who's left standing at the end of it? And that principle is often widely used across the industry, particularly for general haulage practices, isn't it? So you get big players who are able to buy up work at a low rate and then subcontract it out, and essentially almost shut down competitors, I suppose.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
There's a real challenge.
It is challenging, definitely challenging. But especially if you built your model around the Amazon scheme, it was great for an owner driver or anybody that wanted to get into the industry, because you were onboarded, you were given regular work. But you're right, all of a sudden all your eggs in one basket, and as soon as the rate changes or something like that, you're forced to go down the route, well, I've got another option, because you base it's difficult. It's hard to get out of.
Yeah. So I think the key learning is around diversification of industry and also specialisation. The old saying of the riches are in the niches, or whatever the Americans say, something like that, I think. But it's true, isn't it? The rates and the wealth is in the specialist types of work.
It is, and that's what we try to be different. We will make sure that we give us your problem and we'll find you a solution to do it.
Yeah.
the difficulty now is that we'll do anything for anybody, but it comes at a cost. And in the times that we are in at the moment, people are now saying, is it because they want good service, or are they looking at cost savings? So that's where it becomes very, very difficult.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I suppose you get stuck in that challenge when you're, I suppose, are you responsible for pricing a lot of the work up?
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah. So when you're pricing work up, do you worry like, I want to go in at this rate because I know it's profitable? And one of the issues with our industry is that whole thing around profit being a dirty word, because it's really hard, isn't it, when everything's so visible and tricky and difficult, and everyone's got challenges around costs and reducing costs. Do you ever look at it and go, I really want to charge this, but I'm going to charge that?
You do it annually when you come to do it on accounts that you value, accounts that you know have got organic growth in them. So you make the commercial decisions at the time based upon the current time. But if anything is told you now, the current times change so quickly compared to where we were. And we look at prior COVID days, it was stable. But now, from 1 week to the next, you could have a massive U-turn. Yeah. But you look at it and you don't apply the rate increases that you should apply, because you don't want to lose that part of the business. Other businesses, you know that you've been pushing for rate increases for such a period of time, but it's always been rejected. So all of a sudden, what could have been a 2 or 3% becomes a 10, 12%. So it's difficult. It's challenging, and especially, as I say, in the current climate, people will go to a cost saving. Yeah,
of course. And then the challenge is unlike, so the benefit I have is I can price per job. So if all of a sudden I've got to pay 5 or 10 grand more a year for my team, during that year I'll just go, well, this is my rates. But I guess the challenge you've got with longer term contracts is you're kind of stuck for a year. So if you get fluctuations in cost during the year, you're absorbing that. Yeah, and literally everyone's going, oh, tough shit, Brian.
You try to build everything into the cost, or when you're pricing something, you've got your fuel escalator, because that's probably the one that's the most variable week in, week out, depending on what's going on in the world and the economy. But the bit that took everybody by surprise was the electrical charges all of a sudden. Yeah. That was a big surprise to everybody. But I'm fortunate enough that I am involved in the business with the financial aspect. We're over the numbers. I've got a great management team with the finance team. So when things start changing or start becoming difficult, we're very on it, so we can react quite quickly. Other people that aren't as fortunate and may not produce accounts on a monthly basis on time every month, and you're 3 months down the line, by that time the horse already bolted. Sure. So it's too late to put the plug in. So key, make sure you're over your numbers. You need to be. Don't just assume. You just need to know day in, day out what's going on.
So I'm conscious we're focused a lot on the challenges, which is natural. I think it's important to do warts and all and talk about the challenges. But just to move it on, I suppose, then, what's the thing you find most rewarding? If we take the financial benefits out of the equation, what's the thing you find most rewarding about what you do?
It's the satisfaction knowing that when you get your results about being a high service provider, watching small companies that we've taken on board grow, develop, and they do leave because they go to bigger players. But start off as a small startup company to the point that they're going to a big other company, that's very rewarding to see that you're doing something by you providing good service, brings organic growth, they grow and move on. It is very good. The way that staff have developed over the times, adapted, it's all, that side of things very rewarding. The image of the brand, how people take pride in driving our vehicles, that they want to come to Chiltern because what we're about, that's all very rewarding.
Love that.
It's good to see.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so and to reiterate, I suppose that first point, what you mean is around, so you naturally take on a lot of the smaller bespoke companies that are starting out and they need a specific skill set, and you're helping support them grow until such point that it's no longer viable and they move on to someone else, which is fantastic. Yeah, fantastic, mate. Okay, cool. And then, like you say, developing people, nurturing them through the organisation, the value of the brand. How important to you is, I think, obviously you won the livery award for your branding and signage and stuff like that. How important is that for you as a differentiator?
It is. It's very rewarding. Not only that, I think we did a month ago, one of our main customers also gave us a Supplier of the Year award. Amazing. Which is the first time that they've given something externally to a supplier, which they're bits that I do feel proud of, because we're recognised for what we do, and to be able to receive that's great. So it's recognition in any form, whether it's the brand, the name, your services. We get some great feedback from customers. Don't get me wrong, things go wrong and service levels do occasionally drop for whatever reasons, but to be recognised as a high service provider is always great. And
awesome.
for brand is fantastic as well.
Awesome, mate. Awesome. Cool. So this leads me on to my 5 standardised questions that I'm going to ask you. So these are the questions everyone gets when they get the unlucky moment of sitting in that seat that you're
I must admit, thank you for giving me an hour and a bit's notice to prepare for the questions, but I really appreciate the heads up on that, Pete. At 4:30 this morning, may I just add, that is when the message came through, by the way, these are your questions.
I'm so sorry, mate. I'm so sorry. I'm glad you shared that with the audience. So that's how well prepared I was, or Brian was for this. I apologise. So I think we met on, so we're recording this on a Wednesday, and I think we met on Monday, and I said, yeah, I'll send you the questions through. And I realised when I woke up at 4 this morning that I'd not sent them to you.
No, that's fine.
I am very sorry.
I've prepared. I've got some notes because I think that the questions are relevant. They're important. And I want to make sure I don't miss anything. I've got a habit of waffling, talking, and forgetting what I started to say. So I just want to make sure I've got some notes. If it looks scripted, it's not. It's just it's for my benefit to make sure I don't miss anything.
No, that makes sense, mate. That makes sense. So the first question that I wanted you to answer was around how you develop yourself.
That was probably the hardest one that you put on there. Development. So I'll put it's ongoing. I'll try to put some words. I mean, I sent to you this morning, but it's not feel like I've made it. It's a constant developing, understanding, listening, and what's going on in the industry.
Sure.
Reflecting on no mistakes, because that's one thing that I have passed over 12, 18 months. Understand that I can't be right all the time, as much as I hate to say it, but learning.
What? Of course you get to be right all the time, mate.
No, trust me. It's that's been an interesting bit. But surround yourself with good people, people that challenge you day in, day out, and just it's never ending. Make sure that well, there we go. I'll put on here mentors, customers. I'll put here growth happens when you're uncomfortable, which is true. If you become comfortable, you become complacent. So that's it. But put yourself out your comfort zone. That's when you're thinking time and you're at your best. Don't be scared to leaning into those situations. Don't take the easy route, because everybody can do the easy route. That's
a well thought out answer at 4 o'clock this morning, mate.
Thank you.
Fantastic stuff, mate. Okay, cool. So good. There's some real nuggets in there around leaning into discomfort and not taking the easy route and making sure you're growing. So I love that. 3 tips. What are your 3 tips for success?
The first one was easy, and that's always been believe in yourself, follow your gut instinct. That's just your instincts would naturally tell you, don't be scared to follow your instinct. It may feel like it's wrong, but 90% of the time it's not. It's right. And don't get me wrong, you will make mistakes. Don't be scared of making mistakes, but believe in yourself and follow your gut instinct.
Nice. I love that, by the way, because interestingly, when you arrived this morning, when we met, we both go to the same gym, don't we, around the corner? And interestingly, they put
that's true, yeah.
They put chalk pen on the coffee lids, which I think is a really nice touch. But they'd put "believe in yourself" on yours as well.
That was relevant.
Yeah, I love that. And I've given you an opportunity to have a glass of water as well. So
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Do you feel like you've been talking for ages?
No, it doesn't feel like it. It's been good.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Second one I put in here is surround yourself with good people.
Okay.
You can't do it alone.
Yeah.
But definitely you can't do it alone. 2 things to say about that is the people you surround yourself will either lift you or they'll drain you. So make sure, don't be scared to have better talent in you. Don't try to be the smartest person in the room. Have good people around you. It's fantastic. And I'm very fortunate now that I've got a strong management team. I've got a good family foundation. Good people around you always make you succeed.
Yeah, awesome. Fantastic, mate. And you kiss a few frogs along the way, right?
We all have. I won't name and shame, but there's
They know who they are.
Definitely. Yeah.
They know who's bottom of the Christmas card list.
Yeah, they're not even on the Christmas card list. So it wouldn't be worth a stamp.
Fair play, mate. Apart from to send them something in the post.
Exactly.
Anyway, we shan't carry on with that. Carry on. So what's the third one, mate? What you got third?
Be consistent. Just stay consistent.
Yeah, okay.
And it's all very well up here not having bursts of motivation. It is. Just be consistent, because the motivation soon goes. Just make sure you show up every day, be consistent, and be the best that you can do.
Nice, mate. Yeah, I love that. And of anyone I know you're super consistent, because you're wedded to making sure you're. One of the things that I find interesting when we chat is around the size and scope of the business, but how much time you still spend committed to getting in there and being in the office. And
yeah, it's improving. It's improving. But I think that will probably fall onto one of the questions that you do towards the end. But yeah, it's just to be consistent.
Yeah, love that, mate. Love that. Okay, so the third question I'd got for you, which I ask all my guests, is around advice for your younger self. So going back to the Mexican boy moving into the UK and telling the teacher, I love that story about you telling the head teacher, "I'm fine, thank you." But what advice would you give yourself? Steer clear of haulage?
No. This before I go on to that, now it just reminds me, at that primary school, just there you go, it's a moment of glory. At the end of each, when you became out of the school, there was a pupil that got us a trophy for being a standing pupil for the whole of the time. Really? And bearing in mind, I didn't join from the very early on, I got that trophy.
Oh, well done,
so
mate.
At that school, there'll be my name in, when that'd be 1990 somewhere, with my name on it, Brian Sagaseta.
Amazing.
I bet people are still trying to pronounce that surname. Saga what?
Saga what?
Yeah, who's this geezer?
I love that.
There we go, sorry.
Good for you, mate.
I'll put on here, I'll tell my younger self to slow down, back myself a bit more.
Okay.
Stop doubting myself.
Yeah.
Stop worrying about what others think or you think they're going to think of you.
Right, okay.
Trust your instincts, which leads on to the previous question. Enjoy the journey, because the destination is what keeps moving away. But it's about the self-doubts, and don't be so worried about what other people think. You spend so much time trying to second guess people. Don't. I guess it's take a step back.
Yeah.
Slow down. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah, 100%. And one of my favourites is people spend a lot of time worrying about what others' judgment is, and people are going to judge you anyway, right? So whether you do well or you don't do well, they're going to judge you for not doing well as well as doing well. So you might as well do well and shut them up.
But in fact, that's what the coaching that we're having, that you're giving me, it's making me realise things like before I wouldn't have thought of it in that element. It's those key thoughts that are helping. So it's understanding yourself.
Yeah, no, that's good, awesome, mate. And I'm pleased that's those are the things you're thinking about. So the fourth one's a real tricky one, and there's a real reason why I asked this question, because one of the things that I'm really aware of is people glamorize being a business owner. They see flash cars, flash houses, and they think, oh, it's all right. They think, oh, it's all right for Brian, or they think, oh, it's all right for Pete, or, they see that you go on a nice holiday, or they see all the positive stuff, and people glamorize that on Instagram and on social media and stuff like that. And a lot of people are fearful of really telling them what it's like, right? And it's crippling. Some of the stresses are really crippling, right? Which is one of the reasons the podcast is called what it's called. So the fourth question, which I think is probably out of all of them one of my favourites and most important, is what are the sacrifices you've had to make to get to where you are as the MD of Chiltern Distribution?
So this one's is time. I think it's always been the hardest thing. I think people don't take into account, and it's family, love, time. Even when you go on holidays at the moment, I've missed opportunities. I've missed school plays. If I go on holiday, I'm on holiday there, but I'm not with them because your mind is elsewhere. You're thinking about work. You're thinking about the problem. So it's time. You're trying to solve problems. You don't switch off, and you can't buy time back. So it's trying to make sure you have a work-life balance. I've always wanted the best, do the best to be able to provide, especially for my for the family, my kids. But I got lost in that, and with that came you've lost time. Mm-hmm. You want to provide, you want to be the best, and I've said to you, I'm not shy about it. I'm not proud of it. I've always prioritised work first, and from it, in true reflection, I've lost valuable time that I know we won't get back.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Yeah.
It's really tricky, mate. It's really tricky, and I think it's a really common, you're definitely not alone. There'll be a lot of people who are in a similar position and taking a similar route, and there'll be people who have not been anywhere near as successful who have taken a similar thing. There's lots of, particularly, I think there's a real expectation. I've got to be really careful how I say this, being two guys in a room together, but there is, I think, a particular expectation on guys I think guys feel it as breadwinners, I suppose, that it's our role to go out, make money, and almost like the pursuit of delivering wealth, I suppose, to our families it can be really challenging. And certainly, I suppose there'll be women watching this going, well, we've got the same pressures, and I'm sure there are, but I'm not a woman, so I don't know, right? So, but I know from my position, I think I've grown up with that, putting pressure on myself to provide, I suppose, and I think that's probably a bit what you're talking about.
It is, yeah,
and
definitely.
you end up prioritising work, and it's real. You are right, because actually you end up realising from a pursuit of money perspective, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time.
And that's it. It's invaluable, and it's not as if you leave the office and then, especially from my point of view, the same for you. Any business owner knows that it doesn't stop then. The thinking doesn't just suddenly stop because you've left the office. It's ongoing. The phone calls don't stop, the thoughts, the worries, and that makes you not present in whatever's going on. I'm fortunate, I've got a supportive family, a supportive wife, and a supportive management team now. But it's just making sure that, just balance it off, because you be in the moment, have the holidays, try to make the holidays, and try to be the person that you are, because you're not getting that back.
Yeah, and that's a really, really good point you make, is around that presence, around it's all well and good that you can be at home with the family or you can be on holiday with your family, but actually it's having that you're actually there, right? And it's like not just physically, but also mentally, emotionally.
And I think with the social media now, with the telephones, your emails being so easily available. I'll give you an example. My son's birthday a couple of weeks ago, wanted to do something basic to do, want to go to pizza Hut, great. The mistake I made, and I don't know if I told you this or not, but as everybody went to the salad bar, I picked up my phone. Because I thought, okay, I'll wait at the table because everybody else is going to, I'll pick up my phone. And that was it. All of a sudden, I got drawn into something that could have waited, but it didn't. Your natural instinct is to pick up your phone because that's what you do now. I think you do it out of force of habit. I read somewhere, is it 2,000 times a day you pick up your phones subconsciously?
Wow.
But anyway, I picked up this thing and that was it. For about 20, 30 minutes, I remember conversations being had and being asked questions, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm just trying to say. Just be conscious of the fact that if I would have read that email an hour later, nothing would have changed. So it's just changing those kind of habits to make sure you're present. Enjoy the time.
Fantastic, mate. Really good. And so that leads me to my final question, which I think is, again, a really important one for me to ask, because one of the things I focus on is energy. It's one of the key fundamentals for success. And there's a balance there between discipline and motivation. So my question is discipline or motivation, which for you is more important?
Discipline. 100% discipline. I think motivation comes and goes. And again, like I talked about it, depending who you're surrounded with, it could be good motivation, bad motivation. It's great when you've got a win and you've won something. That feeling is great. But discipline is what gets you there. If you're tired in the morning and you don't want to go to the office, discipline gets you there. Mm-hmm. If you followed your motivational, it's like, well, I can't be bothered, you're not going to go in. So when things go wrong, no one's watching. I think that discipline builds consistency. And that's what leads to good results. So it's to me, it's definitely discipline.
Yeah, I love that.
As much as motivation plays a critical part in it, you've got to be disciplined to do what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think on that, I think, my point is that, I'm a big advocate for motivation and for motivating people, motivating staff, motivating your team, motivating ourselves by focusing on the things we want. And then there is that additional thing. I think of my dad in my ear as a kid going, sometimes, Pete, you have to do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of discipline that sort of, I suppose I feel very fortunate was instilled and clearly was instilled in you at whichever point, and that is around that if you want to enjoy life and if you want to play, you've got to work. You know, you've got to work for it, and there is a discipline to that, because sometimes there's just stuff you don't want to do, and you just got to knuckle down and get on with it.
Definitely. There's got some good parts, but it's also got it's not so good parts.
Yeah, absolutely. But anything rewarding comes from that
True.
Discipline, right?
Very true.
And I think I suppose my reflection is I perceive there's a bit of a challenge now where we live in a world of instant gratification, where if I want something, I just go and buy it. I go on Amazon, it's delivered tomorrow, or even in the case of some of the responsiveness of some of the services you'd offer as well. And there's a real challenge in that, because actually where you're sat now, that's taken 27 years in an industry, over years and years and years of sacrifice and discipline and turning up and doing stuff you've not wanted to do, and dealing with people you've not wanted to deal with from time to time. And obviously there's loads of rewards along the way, which are great, but that takes some discipline, doesn't it?
It does.
It takes time.
And good people around you. Like we touched upon earlier, having the mentors, the relationship we had with Paul, working together, the mentors now that I'm having through the coaching elements, good people around you, your family. It's all part of the journey. Just don't take those bits for granted, I think is the bit I'm trying to say.
Really important, isn't it? Really important. Definitely don't take the people for granted.
Every day's a school day. Don't be scared to be learning different things. So.
Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Absolute honour having you on the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it, and it wasn't as daunting as it seemed when
I first walked in and saw these cameras and lights. I thought, Christ, I'm glad I dressed for the occasion anyway. So,
and on that, I think it's great that it's important that you dress how you dress for work, right? And this is work, so it's all good, mate.
Thank you very much.
It's all good. I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you. And thank you guys for listening. Really appreciate you taking the time out to listen. Brian's been a fantastic guest today. Really, really appreciate it, mate. Thank you. I'm going to hit the stop recording button. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on today's It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast. We really hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I'm absolutely delighted that you took the time to listen, and I really hope that you'll subscribe to ensure that you receive future episodes too. If you want to find out any more, please do search It's Not So Lonely at the Top podcast, and you'll find it on your favourite podcast app. Thank you.